So what I'd like to do um, today is do a review of a couple of assessments that are used for neglect and do a quick overview of the rationale that I chose the Bergego scale in the Kessler Foundation neglect assessment process in order to use the Bergego scale. In completing this capstone project for Chatham University, I'm looking at implementing an evidence-based practice project for people who've had left neglect or left inattention. It's called various things, but that's for the purposes of this, I'm calling it left unilateral neglect. So what I've typically used in the past is the behavioral inattention test. So here's the kit that it comes in. I can get that. So in that kit there are the typical paper pencil tasks, and they look something like this. For example, we have the star cancellation. We have letter cancellation. A few other typical types of paper pencil tasks. We have shape drawing, figure drawing, and we have line crossing. And in so those are the ones that are considered within the conventional subtest, but then there are also behavioral subtests, and some of those include things like picture identification, map reading, and I think text reading. But I chose the Bergego scale because it uses functional tasks, it uses activities of daily living. The tasks that you saw, such as the star cancellation, for example, you can see that these are tabletop paper and pencil tasks, and there's research to suggest that people can do well with these kinds of tasks where you cross certain things out, but they still have difficulty with functional tasks. So the Kessler Foundation neglect assessment process is a method that describes how to administer the Bergego scale. And it's available through the Kessler Foundation Research Center. If you go to this website, kesslerfoundation.org, Research Center, you can find this Kessler, you can find this online. The scoring sheet looks something like this. So you can see there are 10 items: gaze orientation, limb awareness, auditory attention, personal belongings, dressing, grooming, navigation, collisions, and meals, and then cleaning after meals. And you can see that it has a 3-point rating scale, 0 being no neglect, 1 mild, 2 moderate, and then 3 severe. And so you rate each task, and then you multiply, or you add up the sum, and then you divide, or you multiply times 10. So you have the sum of the assigned scores, and then you multiply times 10 to get the final score. So this is what the score sheet looks like. And you can see there in terms of severity, absent is 0, mild is 1 to 10, moderate is 11 to 20, and then severe is 21 to 30. The manual gives pointers and tips for doing this. For example, the tests or the subtests are suggested. It's suggested that one goes in order from gaze orientation and limb awareness, which really involves being aware of that person's performance behavior while you're doing other tasks, and all the way down through grooming, dressing, and navigating. It suggested that that each of these tasks are done not only in order, but also the same time of day in the same environment. Gaze orientation, limb awareness involves determining how much time somebody spends in terms of looking left to right. Is there a strong right gaze preference? Do they come over to the left some? Limb awareness, do they pay any attention to their limb? Do they ask for help? Auditory attention, the evaluator drops an item and then observes to see if somebody turns left and right to pay attention. Personal belongings, in that test or that task, what you ask a client to do is look to the left or to try to find their personal belongings, and you put 3 on the left and 3 on the right, and how many do they detect. Dressing, do they ask for assistance? They pay attention to their left side. Same thing with grooming. Navigation, can they find their way through space in a predetermined route? How many collisions do they have? How well do they do with their meals? And just to give you a quick example on scoring. So under meals, for example, a score of 3 would be patient eats only on the right side, is unable to find items on the left. For example, he or she asks for coffee despite it being on the tray. Once told that coffee is on the tray, he or she remains unable to look. So that's a 3, which is the most severe score. 1, for example, is the patient eats food mainly on the right side of the array and hesitates to have food on the left side. The patient searches food or other items from right to left. So those are some of the scoring. And 2, patient eats food mainly on the right side and rarely eats food on the left. The patient searches food or other items from right to left, but he or she has a hard time finding items on the tray. He or she does not always find items on the left. So a score of 3 and a score of 0 can be really obvious. Either they don't have it or they have really severe neglect. Whereas 2 and 1 can be a little bit tricky, and sometimes you just have to make your own best clinical judgment about that. So that's pretty much an overview of the Kessler Foundation. If you go to the website again, they're going to have video tutorials available, and there's a spatial neglect network that's available through the Kessler Foundation Rehab Research Center. So what we may do for the next video is go over a little bit more in detail, or actually have a client, score a client using this if one's available.